Hello everyone, welcome. This is a brief tour of the browsing shell, which is a Unix-like shell that has graphical capabilities. It comes from the Supertext website. So here we have the basic browsing shell window. There's a prompt at the bottom, kind of like your bash or Z shell prompt. Like any good tool, there is some help. Let's go through that really quick. So I ran the help command, it exited OK. But what's interesting here is this is not just your plain fixed width text. You can see that there's some rendering of the content here. The help is in supertext format, which is a kind of lightweight markup of regular text. So there are headings, paragraphs. There's some pre-formatted sections here as well, subheadings, etc. Looking at the top here, we can see that there are these pre-formatted blocks. So with the browsing shell, whenever there's a pre-formatted block that has the shell extension, we can Alt or Option click on it to quickly copy it into the command line, and then we can run it like we normally would. You can see here that there is a SSH command that we can run that actually goes to the Supertext website. But the browsing shell doesn't know that this is going to be supertext. It doesn't know whether the output is going to be renderable like supertext. So that's where these special little hints come in. So we'll see here if we run this. By providing this hint, we can instruct it that it should render it as supertext, which it does. It's kind of nice. You see these nice quotes. Bullet points are rendered in a graphical way, etc., etc. So that's pretty interesting. It says here we can even do the same thing with images. So let's have a quick look at this directory here. We can see that there is an image in this directory. Let's try catting that image and giving it the hint that it's a .gif file. There we go. It renders the image right in line. So basically any command that can output a GIF output, or in the case that the help above was saying a PNG or a JPEG, you can do the same kind of thing and just have it show inline, which is kind of cool. Now there are some commands that don't require the hint. So for example, Supertext has this command called cats, which is a kind of enhanced version of cat, and if you use it, you don't have to provide the hint. So let's give this a quick try. Suppose I could have clicked on that one, but we'll try this. And here we can see that it was aware, because cats told the shell through this reflection mechanism, that the output would be supertext. So the shell is able to provide a nice viewer for that. From the help, we can also see that if you had any comma separated values or tab separated value files or outputs, you could use a similar hint and they'll render as a grid table. So yeah, otherwise this is a very similar, although not fully featured, Unix shell. So you can run the typical commands that you might expect. For commands that don't have any output that can be rendered nicely in this viewer. They just show up as text. They kind of show up like what is in these pre-formatted blocks as regular text. So like a web browser or like some terminal emulator programs, you can do things like zoom in and zoom out. So Command Shift plus does a zoom in, and then similarly Command Shift underscore zooms out. There's also a Control I and Control K for bringing up historical commands. Kind of like the up and down arrow in Bash or Z shell, C shell. I kind of like that they chose a different key combination for going back in history of the commands, because especially with multi-line commands like here docs, I always found that Bash and Z shell confuse the two. So if you went up arrow inside a multi-line command, it would navigate within the lines in that command instead of going back to the previous command in history until you reach the very top. So I'm actually pretty happy that it works this way, where there's two different key combinations depending on what you want to do. So just for fun, let's try a multi-line command and see how it looks. So you can see here I'm using the up and down arrows, and they work kind of like what I would expect in a graphical environment, whereas Control I and Control K are purely historic command movements. Yeah, so it's pretty neat. It's really interesting, this supertext stuff, because it's very lightweight, and as you can see from some of the examples, you don't even need to use this browsing shell, or you can use the browsing shell. You don't need to use the special cats command if you don't want. You can use the regular cat command. But you can see that by combining all three together, you get a really interesting experience that kind of resembles web browsing in a sense, except you're typing commands rather than URLs, and the prompt is at the bottom. All right, well, thanks very much for watching this video. I hope it was interesting for you, and have a great day.